Jared Polinfrono's Photo.com, and this is your
You win some, you lose some.
Photo News Fix. This fix is brought to you by B&H and their amazingly named Payboo credit card. Remember this guy?
Low on cash, but still need to get your boo?
Well, he couldn't make it today, so you're stuck with me. So what's Payboo? Oh, pick me, pick me. Nah, it's not exactly what you're thinking. It's a credit card from B&H that helps you save on tax. That's right, when you use your Payboo card to make a purchase at B&H, you pay the tax, and then B&H pays you back the same amount instantly. No points to redeem or other mishigash. Now, for those of you who don't know Yiddish, mishigash means craziness.
And I could be crazier.
Think about it. If you spend $5,000 at B&H and pay 8% tax, you're gonna save $400, and that's a big deal. Now, speaking of big deals, from now until November 10th, if you get a Payboo card, B&H will give you a $50 gift card to save even more. To apply for a Payboo card, just go to the link on the screen or look for the link down in the description below. Oh yeah, one more thing. B&H has experts standing or probably sitting by to help you make the right buying decisions by chat, phone, email, or even video. Now that's something I need to try out. First up, let's kick this week off with something Nikon is actually crushing Canon and Sony with, and that's big-ass unique glass. Introducing the Nikon 600mm f4 TC. Yes, you heard that right. Nikon has put out another telephoto lens with a built-in teleconverter. First was the 400 2.8 with a 1.4 TC, and now it's the 600mm f4 with a 1.4 TC.
How dare you?
No, Greta, this is a good thing, so take it back. Now, I did get to go hands-on with the 600mm for about an hour, though we didn't really have much to shoot out at the soccer practice. This lens weighs in at 14% lighter than the F-mount version at 7.19 pounds or 3,260 grams. It's also only a half a pound heavier than the 400 2.8 TC. Now, in terms of motors, Nikon is using the Silky Swift voice coil kind once again, so if you have a pacemaker, this isn't confirmed just yet, you may want to keep your distance. And when you flip the TC switch, your 600 f4 becomes an 845.6 or a 1260mm when you have on a DX crop mode. Though in my opinion at this point you might as well just crop or give up on shooting that barn swallow, yeah I googled it, because you're too far away.
Well, you scared him away.
Jared, why are you always ragging on bird photographers? Why? Because they have this idea that you need more zoom and more megapixels for cropping. Just get closer. And if you can't get closer, then you can't get the picture. Anyway, there's something that Nikon needs to update that Canon already has in their menu. And that's the ability to automatically drop or raise the shutter speed or ISO one stop to compensate for when you flip that TC in or out. Other than that, Nikon is way ahead of Canon and Sony in unique big ass glass department. But I do expect Canon to strike back soon.
When will then be now?
And by soon, I mean probably 1 or 2 years from now. If you think the Nikon 600 TC is for you, get ready to fork over $15,500. Now, will you be buying one?
No.
Next up, continuing on with the new lens train, Canon just dropped a new fast RF lens in the way of the 135 1.8. Canon's current 135 f2 EF was released all the way back in 1996, where the #1 Billboard song of the year was Hey Macarena, 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 Macarena. Hey Macarena. Hi, man, this would be perfect on Tickety Talk. Cut that, Dan, and put that on Tickety Talk.
No, that's not necessary.
I've been waiting for a 135 1.8 for a while from Canon, and in fact, one of the greatest lenses ever in Sony's lineup is the 135 1.8, which I used to photograph Bernie's portrait. Now, I did get my hands on the new RF 135 1.8 out in San Diego, where Canon brought out a bunch of press people recently for an event. I pretty much left the 135 on for 2 days straight as I photographed everything from BMX bikers to badass super fit obstacle course racers to para athletes, tennis players, and even divers. This lens is pure insanity. It weighs in at just over 2 pounds or 935 grams and is actually lighter than Sony's 135, with the major difference being the RF version includes IS built in. The biggest surprise here is the price, $2,100. Sure, Sony's is the same exact price, but Sony's doesn't have IS built in. I would have expected this lens to be at least $2,300 or $2,400. Oh, and for those wondering, no, you can't add a teleconverter to this lens. Now, I love this lens and think Canon's going to sell a ton of them. I know I'm gonna pick one up and it's gonna be in my bag from here on out. Speaking of my bag, did you know that the Fronos Photo Podcast comes out every Friday? On this week's episode, we will talk more about me shooting the World Series, our recent trip to San Diego with Canon, and much more. Head on over to FronosPhoto.com/podcast or search Fronos Photo Raw Talk wherever you get your podcasts. And finally, Canon has updated their R6 with the, get this, R6 Mark II. Just 2 years after its introduction, the R6 Mark II enters the world with mostly minor but worthy tweaks.
Tweak some things.
Now, I know there's been a lot of speculation on whether or not it would have the same stack sensor as the R3, but it does not. I repeat, the R6 Mark II does not have the same sensor as the $6,000 R3.
Duh.
What it does have is the all-new 24.2 megapixel sensor that is capable of 12 frames per second with the mechanical shutter, just like the R6 original, but now it can do 40 frames per second with the electronic shutter. That's faster than the R3's 30 frames per second in H+, by the way. Now, I went hands-on with this new camera for a few days last week when we were in San Diego, and you can check out that real-world preview, which is linked down below. Now, in terms of the body, there's some minor tweaks. The on and off switch has been moved to the right-hand side of the camera, with the dedicated video and photo switching being added to the left side where the on and off switch used to be. The joystick has been tweaked just a little bit.
That's what she said.
There's also a digital hot shoe, but other than that, it still takes the same grip as the R5 and R6. The autofocus has been updated slightly with improved deeper learning for better subject tracking and stickiness.
Sticky stuff.
I mean, just look at how it tracks this BMX rider with the new 135 1.8 at 1.8. It nails the focus from the first photo to the last. It really feels like a mini R3 in terms of autofocus. Now, the biggest changes to the camera are in the way of video. You can shoot full width 4K up to 60p, which is oversampled from 6K. When you're shooting 4K 60, Canon says they've been able to go over 40 minutes without overheating, and when recording up to 30p, there is no time limit. Now, we didn't run into any issues with overheating, and we were shooting in direct midday sun in San Diego. You can now record full width 1080p up to 180 frames per second for super slow.
I like you.
There's minimal rolling shutter when shooting video, and you still get up to 8 stops of image stabilization when paired with newer IS lenses. Canon surprised us once again by maintaining the $2,499 price point, which means that the original R6 will probably be dropping in price. The R6 Mark II is a super solid, well-rounded camera for anyone just jumping into the Canon mirrorless world. But if you already own an R6 and you're happy with it, should you upgrade? The simple answer is maybe. If you want updated video, a few more megapixels, 40 frames per second stills with the electronic shutter, and some slightly better autofocus, maybe the answer is yes for you. To check out a hands-on preview of the R6 Mark II, go ahead and click on the screen right here. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And that's where I'm gonna leave it. Jared Polin, FronosPhoto.com. See ya.